Assalamu alaikum, bacho. We have our third lecture on the story A Hanging, and we know this story is written by one of the famous story writers, George Orwell. And if we are going to read the third paragraph before going to start the lines, we are going to talk about certain context. So, as we know that the story is written by George Orwell, what it describes, the story describes the moment just before the execution, when time is passing and the prison becomes impatient. And this passage is basically third passage, third paragraph, as I have divided the whole story into paragraphs. Obviously, original paragraphs, so I'm considering each paragraph in one lecture. So as far as this paragraph is concerned, it is highlighting the routine nature of death, the emotional detachment of authority, and the mechanical process of execution. Three elements we will find here. So let's start it. I'm going to read one by one. Almost there are 6 sentences in this short paragraph. 8 o'clock struck, and a bugle call, desolately thin in the wet air, floated from the distant barracks. So, in this sentence, we find that the clock strikes, and everyone listens or hears the sound of the clock. And right now, the time is 8 in the morning. This striking 8, or the clock striking 8, is marking the progression of time. And it also tells that the execution is reaching, it's coming closer. The time of execution is near. Then you will find a phrase, desolately thin. This is suggesting weakness and sadness. And we also find another phrase, that is a wet air. It is also reinforcing the gloomy atmosphere. Look at the words, selection of words by our author. He is creating a gloomy atmosphere with the help of certain words, especially adjectives. And the distant bugle call, we have the reference that bugle calls. So that distant bugle call is also adding a sense of emptiness and isolation. It's coming from, might be coming from far away, a distant barracks, floated from the distant barracks. It means from the distant barracks, means when the bugle call is coming from the barracks which are far away. So that place seems to be isolated, where it is where execution is going to be occurred. The superintendent of the jail, who was standing apart from the rest of us, moodily prodding the gravel with his stick, raised his head at the sound. Uh, the superintendent's action, if you see, this sentence is describing the superintendent's actions, how he is behaving, what he is doing. If you see, his action basically is showing impatience and distraction. If you see the word, if you read the word moodily, that word is suggesting that he is irritated or he is feeling boredom. So that suggestion of irritation and boredom is basically indicating that he is emotionally detached from the seriousness of this situation. He's not emotionally involved. It also shows that it is his routine. It is the routine matter. It's something that is not new. That's something that is not producing or creating certain emotional feelings in him. Then the next sentence, if you see, there's another person who is part and parcel of this execution process, that is doctor. He was, and obviously it's the continuity of the description about superintendent. He was an army doctor with a gray toothbrush mustache and a gruff voice. See the description. The writer is beautifully, masterfully describing people as well as situation. So here we see in this sentence, we find physical description of one of our characters. And this physical description shows us, makes us feel that this army doctor or the superintendent is very stern and he knows how to use authority. And his character, his description shows that he is utter authoritative character. Then we also find the phrase toothbrush mustache, and then another phrase that is gruff voice. Both of these suggest strictness and lack of warmth. The strictness and lack of warmth reinforces his role as a figure of authority. If you see the whole sentence, we will find that even his physical description is telling us that he is a person who holds authority and who likes to use authority. For God's sake, hurry up, Francis, he said irritably. The man ought to have been dead by this time. Aren't you ready yet? See, now we have seen something new. Now we are observing a dialogue. Before that, it's been a sheer narration. But here we find the same manner, the same method that we saw in the last leaf. Frequent dialogues were there, but here we find that at least one dialogue has appeared. So this line is also very important because this line is showing clear impatience of the superintendent. And when the superintendent says, "For God's sake," it shows his frustration. It shows that he's irritated, and even when we find that he said irritably, so this word irritably is presenting his tone, how he is talking. So it also indicates frustration, as if the delay is an inconvenience. He's inconvenienced by the delay of executing a prisoner, a human being. And this delay is an inconvenience rather than a matter of life and death. Then he says, the man ought to have been dead by this time. This is a shocking statement. We feel shocked. We feel taken aback because the superintendent speak of death, casualty, as if it is a scheduled task, as if it is the matter of routine, as if does not create any change in your feelings or in your emotions. This highlights the normalization of execution, that execution in a prison is a normal thing. And it also highlights the lack of human sympathy. The people who are executing a prisoner, they have no sympathy for the prisoner who is being hanged or who is being executed. Then, aren't you ready yet? A question. This question again is emphasizing urgency and pressure. It shows that the execution is treated like a routine duty that must be completed on time rather than a serious moral act. So we will discuss this paragraph now. If you see, as we've been following certain pattern in the description of every paragraph, you'll find literary techniques here, imageries here, and we know that Orwell uses auditory and visual imagery to create a atmosphere. Here, auditory imagery, we can read, we can feel, that is bugle call, and then wet air, and that these help the reader imagine a quiet, damp, and depressing environment. Now, if we see symbolism, we find three symbolisms. Number three incidents of symbolism here. The clock striking 8, it also symbolizes something, and that symbolizes what? It symbolizes the inevitability of death, that it cannot be avoided, it cannot be escaped. Then the bugle call represents routine, it symbolizes routine and discipline. And it links execution to military order. Then there's another symbolism, the superintendent. He is also symbolizing. He's symbolizing or representing authority and institutional power. Now, if you see tone and mood of this passage or paragraph, we see that tone is detached. The tone is impatient. It's showing detachment and impatience, especially when we read this part of the sentence, the man ought to have been dead by this time. Moreover, the mood is tense and unsettling as death is treated casually, a routine matter, and it is treated without emotion. There's no emotion involved. The superintendent is not feeling any pain. He's not feeling any sorrow. It is for him just a routine matter. He's considering person a thing. Or even we read in the first paragraph that he's being treated as an animal. Then we also find irony. Irony is strongly used here. And we find it in the superintendent's concern. He's not showing sympathy for the prisoner, but he is worried about delay. He's worried why he has not been executed yet. He has no sympathy for him. He wants him to be dead as early as possible. He does not want any delays. So we find the contrast, ironical contrast, that highlights the cruelty of system. The system is very cruel. The system is without emotions. The system is without feelings. When you have power, your emotions, your feelings die. Then let's see different themes, and we will also consider what sentences or what parts of sentence presenting that theme. If you see, we will find ought to have been dead by this time. That part reflects the theme of routine nature of death. And that line shows that execution is treated like a scheduled task, a routine task. That makes death seem ordinary and mechanical. It looks mechanical, that we are doing something just like a machine. Then we also find another part of a sentence that is, for God's sake, hurry up. Here we find emotional detachment of authority. It is one of the major themes of this story. So when the superintendent shows impatience, he shows a lack of sympathy. We find lack of sympathy in this phrase. And authority figures are disconnected from human suffering. The people who are in power, the people who enjoy authority, who hold authority, they are not concerned with human suffering. Then we see a constant theme in this story, that is power and control. If you see in this paragraph, you find that there is a person who is holding the charge of superintendent. He's giving orders, and he is expecting that his orders must be followed immediately. His expectations are high. He wants immediate action. So that nature of our superintendent, of our character, reflects strict control and hierarchy within the system. Then obviously, very strong central theme of the story is injustice of capital punishment. Capital punishment, remember, it is execution. When someone is punished, when he is sentenced to death, that is called capital punishment. It has nothing to do with money. So the way in which death is discussed here, it is very casual. That is not given importance here. So that suggests criticism of execution. It shows how the system ignores the value of human life. System is not concerned that someone's life is someone is dying. They are not, the system is not concerned with it. For system, it's just implementation of certain orders where no emotions are involved. Only order should be obeyed. That matters. Then we also find atmosphere of gloom and oppression. When we find the word desolately thin, the desolately thin bugle call and wet air, these three phrases create a depressing environment, and they reflect the seriousness and sadness of the situation, these words. So I also expect from you that you are going to give examples of these phrases. You should remember these phrases and how they are, what objective these phrases are serving. And if we see George Orwell's style, we find it is a simple and realistic style. He describes in very brief manner, but his manner is very powerful, and his descriptions focus on small details like sound and behavior. And the dialogue is direct, and the dialogue reveals character effectively. When we read the dialogue, we can create an image about the the character who's saying that, then we also find the detached tone of our character, and that detached tone makes the scene more disturbing as death is treated casually. Accumulatively, we see in this paragraph the style is very clear. It is not intricate, it is not complex, it is very simple, and it is very well controlled. The writer is in control, and we see, though it is simple and clear, but it leaves a strong impact. It is very, we can say that it is highly impactful. Let us critically analyze this passage, this paragraph, a short paragraph. If we see this passage is exposing the mechanical and inhuman nature of execution. It is mechanical, it is just like machine. No importance of human beings. It's just like a process, just boiling an egg, or just just preparing tea. No, you are killing or you are killing a human being who has feelings, who has emotions, who has family. So Orwell shows how authority figures treat death as a routine responsibility rather than a moral issue. The superintendent's impatience is revealing a lack of sympathy, and it is also highlighting the system's cruelty. The calm, everyday language used for such a serious event shocks us. It makes us disturbed. It it disturbs our emotions and feelings. We are forced to think about that deeply, and it also forces a reflection on the injustice of capital punishment. We see Orwell is adopting very subtle approach, and his subtle approach makes the criticism more powerful and thought-provoking. He is encourages us. He's encouraging us to think about that, to think about uh, this process, to think about the people who hold the authority, to think us even, do we also have, or do we also follow the same process? Are we also the part of this game? Are we also human being? Are we also emotionless, feelingless? Right? So let us conclude it. If we see this paragraph, this short paragraph, we see that this paragraph highlights different themes, three major themes. Number one is death, number two is authority, and number three is emotional detachment. And we see imagery, we see irony, and we also see the use of tone to present execution as a routine and insensitive process. If we see the attitude of superintendent, we see that his attitude reflects the dehumanizing nature of the system. Humanity is gone. So accumulatively, we can say that this paragraph is creating a disturbing impression of how human life is treated as insignificant within institutional authority. I hope you have understood it. If you have any questions, this story is quite easy as compared to The Telltale Heart. And even if you see The Last Leaf, I think comparatively it is simpler. I hope you will make notes today. And if you have any queries, you will ask me. and do it with honesty. I hope you will keep doing work with dead honesty. Thank you for watching.